Thank you so much.
You
Thank you,
know,
and thank you, everyone.
whenever we want to do sessions like this, right, we want to talk to people who have had extensive and very deep experience. Unfortunately, people like that are hidden and they are gems, but they are hidden somewhere. They don't normally come out and talk about. So I haven't heard Ayan talk much in public forums. He goes to very selective places, and we are very fortunate that he has chosen to share his journey. He is one of those people who has seen the entire journey of CS from when it started, where it was services, from product to services to product to SaaS, and how customer success developed. And it's not just that, he's been part of that journey in terms of forming that. I have been, extremely influenced and very, very humbled to be able to talk to you, Ayan.
Thank you.
And we've been talking in last few days, and your journey has been absolutely inspirational. So could you
Thank you.
tell us a little bit about your journey, I mean, the kind of journey you've had in PeopleStrong?
Sure. So I think firstly, it's great to see a full house, almost a full house. It's a Saturday afternoon, but thank you so much, everyone, for taking out time and being here. I would say that I was fortunate enough, probably at the right place at the right time, that I got an opportunity to work with PeopleStrong. PeopleStrong has been operational for close to 20 years now around, and that's how my career has also shaped up with PeopleStrong. And by virtue of the growth that PeopleStrong has seen, uh, my work has happened accordingly. So, I can say this after almost 19 years of work with this organization, that my every second year would change by almost 70%. Right? That's how we've seen scale, and that's how we've seen growth, and that's how we have, seen the change in this organization. What we do, I'll give a quick introduction. So it's one of the largest and one of the most comprehensive HR tech platform, India's own HR tech platform that we offer. Around 500 plus clients, close to 2 million plus users. We process around 10 billion plus USD of paychecks year on year. So that's the kind of work that we do. Loved by our clients. We have an adoption. These are numbers that you will relate as CS practitioners. Adoption of around 98%, NPS of positive 51, and app scale, app rating of around 4.7.
That needs a clap, guys. Come on.
So that's what PeopleStrong is all about. End-to-end HR tech setup, right from hire to retire, and of course a SaaS platform in the offering.
This is amazing. And I love the term hire to retire. So, when we discussed, Ayan, we talked about that PeopleStrong, I mean, I'm highly awarded, one of the fastest growing companies around, and very quiet in the corner also, along with that, right? But the kind of power that PeopleStrong has in terms of the customer base is amazing today. And we were talking about, you said how the journey of PeopleStrong started, where it started, where you've been part of the whole journey, of course. Could you just tell us a little bit? Because I think that aligns so much with the evolution of customer success in general as well.
So in India, and I'm not bragging, in India, after SAP and Oracle, we hold the largest market share. That's the presence that we have. And when we say enterprise, it's not an easy area to work in. Specifically, working with the big conglomerates, and that too when you're trying to deploy SaaS in conglomerates who have legacy practices, it is not an easy task. But what helped is, because of the way that we started. When we started, we were a services setup, and we at least in the initial years, we never thought that we would take a tech route. But this was 2005 when we started. We were doing all back office operations. We were doing payroll. We were doing HR shared services. We were doing HR help desk, out and out services. You can say India's native, HRO in that sense. In fact, we also went ahead and did the first toll-free HR help desk for one of the biggest BFSI organization. We set up the HR shared services for one of the largest automobile sectors. So neck deep into services. That made us extremely, extremely strong in terms of understanding the HR policies and practices, and the way organizations operate at a grassroots level when it comes to execution of HR processes. And around 2009 and 10, when we, thought of moving towards technology, what we realized in this, this 6-7 years of work, what we realized was, and we were working on, since it was services, we were working on the other platforms of those organizations, right? So we had a very close view of what were those platforms offering to their end users. So what we realized, there was nothing called employee self-service or manager self-service. It was just data punching in, right? You know the interfaces of the so-called biggies, how they look. The second thing that we also realized was that, there's no thought about user experience, specifically the end user experience. Employee experience was towards the end. Thank you. Employee experience was absolutely the last in the priority. It was all about data punching and reporting and accuracy and all of that, right? So we realized there is an opportunity there, of course. The second thing that we realized was the SaaS piece was coming up. This was at that time people were kind of looking forward to pay-as-you-go setup and subscription and bundled offering and all of that. And the third piece, which gave us the confidence that if we are able to bridge the first one and create a SaaS platform, we are backed by very solid research because it already covered all of that through.
You basically tick all the boxes. You did users research.
Yes.
You knew exactly the use cases needed. You also had competition research done.
Yes.
Right? So these are the basics when you try to start a new SaaS business, and you had that, plus you already knew the market in and out.
Yes. So what we realized is, all the biggies that they were operating, they were not conditioned to India operations. Their processes will stop after a certain level. So, that's the gap that we wanted to bridge in, and that's where we, came into picture.
So you basically were able to find the problems and use cases not covered by the competitors, and you had that entire platform. This is what, when we start talking about starting a new company in SaaS, people always say, first thing, do user research. That's also what we say when a new CS team member joins. Understand your customer. So I think that piece was so well understood. So I think 2010 is around when you start moving into the product direction and the SaaS direction.
And we got a lot of backing from our clients because they had a lot of confidence in us because they had already seen us working in the services segment, right? So our credibility was already established. When we came back, thank you again. When we came back and, when we went out in the market and we said that, now we're going to launch our product. So it was extremely well received.
So you also had a pipeline with early adopters.
Yes,
amazing.
Yes. So, in fact, a lot of our initial services customers got converted into, the tech side.
Okay, so I'm going to move a little bit from there and focus on the journey that we would really want to know. So when you start services, when you started doing, the customer handling is slightly different, right? In terms of when you are moving into a product, and especially it is more of a bespoke product, you want to create a product, different customers handling. So how did you move in the journey more in terms of your team, structuring, strategy?
Sure. So, I've been out and out a client or a customer guy, right? And when so much of talk happens around customer success, and I don't want to discourage or demean or no disrespect, but what I feel, thank you so much. Customer success is not very different from customer service. Customer success is just an extension of customer service. Customer service is not tangible. It is more feeling, right? When you go out and ask for feelings, right? Customer success is when you make it tangible. You put numbers, to that service element. For example, what is your usage? What is your adoption? What is your NPS? You don't find these things in customer service. So this is just graduating from a intangible services environment to a tangible, measurable environment. So that's how we moved from, the services setup that we had to a customer success environment. But we had a lot of learning on the way, and it was not easy, for sure.
Of course, 2010 was not the time anybody knew customer success.
Nobody knew
actually,
customer success. Yeah, nobody knew customer success.
So how did you even define at that time the kind of role you need, the kind of people you need, and what do you expect of them? I mean, it's trying to tell them you have to do something. That entire journey of understanding, that is something you would have had to do yourself.
So I think first thing what we had to do, since we had created this product, everybody was extremely passionate about the product and obsessed over it. So we had to, go back and ask everyone that step back a little. The product can't be at the center. It has to be the customer at the center, right? If you focus too much on the product, then you're not trying to solve the customer's problem. That was one fundamental shift in the strategy that we brought in. The second thing that we did was take the product people away from the customer. They need to focus on the product. They can't be out in the market. They can't be talking finance, doing sales. So we did some very strong structural changes. And what we also realized is, as you scale up, it is very important that you bring in an assembly line approach, right? You need to have sales, you need to have product, you need to have engineering, you need to have IT, and then you need to have support and customer success and all of that. But the most important realization was, when we were trying to put all of this together, we realized that we needed one role, or probably so-called now the customer success function, which is kind of able to do a little bit of everything, right? That's the most important part. So look at your role as a customer success practitioner, right? You know a little bit of product, you know a little bit of finance, you know a little bit of marketing, you know a little bit of support, you can handle IT, compliance, a lot of things. So, but at that time, there was nothing like this. When we reached out in the market, people either knew domain. So either I get a HR person, it's a HR tech platform. Either I get a HR person or I get a tech person. Not a combination of both. So there was this hassle. But what we did was, quickly we went within our organization, got people together, and we kind of laid down, a structure first, and then the role, if I have to say. And when we were discussing a little bit, earlier, so it was not an Iron Man, not a Thor, it was not a Hulk. We tried to figure out a Nick Fury in everyone. So everybody, and he knows how to get the job done, and that is the most important part. And somebody says, CS team members, they are naturally not equipped to do anything by their own hands, right? You have to get the job done. It is either your product guy, it is either the finance guy, it is either the support guy, it is either the client that you need to make work. So this was a very interesting learning that we had.
I would really like to point out that for us all of this is something we now know. But at that time in 2010, when a services business is moving into, a SaaS business, where there is nothing online, people are only talking about project implementation and client services, to define the entire role by itself within an organization, that's the kind of evolution that has happened. And we are all reaping benefits of knowledge like this that exists in silos with people who have defined this entire customer success role. So, Ayan, with this journey, now once you've defined the customer success role and you obviously had to train people inside your business, and the business currently has grown leaps and bounds, where it is. What are your challenges that you face nowadays?
So I'll split the challenges in two parts. The challenges that we faced initially, because we've also graduated. We've been doing customer success for almost 6+ years now. When we started, the fundamental problem was data. The moment you establish a customer success organization, the entire organization starts looking at you. I need this cut. I need this data. But nobody had thought about data at that point of time. And I've got one of my team members here. I mean, it was nightmare. Getting data of live customer, exited customer, partially live customer, and then adding a layer of intelligence on that. How many modules? What is the segmentation? Is it an enterprise customer? Is it a mid-market customer? So every, probably, 2 days we will sit on the data and we will create cuts. And on top of that, and this is very interesting and people don't talk about all of this. I've attended and seen a lot of customer success events. There is one fundamental problem, and I'm sure all of you will agree, is loading. How do you load a CS person? What's the science behind loading? Would you load a person basis the number of clients, number of users, number of module, or the skill of that individual? It was such a difficult task. We're doing it for the first time. And loading an individual, every now and then this individual will come back and say, aapne mere ko zyada kaam de diya. And to define that, what is the zyada kaam, it was one heck of a task, because KPIs were not there very, very clean and clear. So this was the first problem, but we were able to solve it. But a lot of it was manual, no platform. And when you wanted to add the third layer of intelligence to it, which is where you want to solve the customer problem, like kitna digital ho gaya, kitna adoption ho gaya, and how much is the core objective of the project achieved. You needed something which can enable the customer success managers, right? So the first part was looking at data, getting data, prepping the CSMs. The second part now, which we are trying to solve, is enabling them so that they can take the next steps. So that's the second part of the journey that we are in currently.
I understand being small part of your journey. I understand the entire journey that's happening. So in this, in this entire evolution of CS that you have seen, what would you say to the current CS professionals right now?
Sure. I think one again very fundamental thing, feature pe mat lado. You will never ever be able to win the war in terms of feature, because the person sitting on the other side is already feature loaded, right? So what you need to focus definitely on is the solution, right? Don't get too obsessed with the product. Try and see what is the solution that you're going to bring on the table. That's where your clients are going to value you. That is point number one. Point number two, financials are extremely important in the current SaaS context, right? We are, CS people become excellent product people, excellent support people, but they are loose when it comes to financials, right? So I think these are two fundamentals that I would say that the CS team members should keep in mind.
And the CS function, if you can add a few.
Sure. As a function, again, I think you are like the central intelligence unit, right? All data passes through you. So you need to ensure that you are able to predict risk at the appropriate time. I think predicting risk is the most important part, and keep your eyes on the numbers. Top line, bottom line. If you are a functional head of a customer success setup, overall organization's top line and bottom line, and breaking it down at each client level, whether your each client is profitable or not, is super, super critical. That's the question that you will be asked by your CEO. That's the question that you will be asked by your investors.
Thank you, Ayan. And I think we will probably have opportunity to speak to you more. I think there's a lot more we need to dig in terms of the knowledge that you have.
Thank you.
And the way you've put together, that's very simple. Last words for Nuke Furies of the next generation.
So, to my team, I say three things. That's what I drive. And I keep on telling them, because it's not an easy function, right? You have to collaborate extensively internally, a lot of pressure internally, clients always ready to hammer you out if anything goes wrong, right? So three things that I say to my team internally. Point number one, it might sound a little esoteric, little spiritual, but I say that, you need to first drop your ego. The client is not pointing out at you. They're talking about the problem, and they're talking about the probably something that has gone wrong in the product. So you need to drop the ego. Don't take it on yourself. The second thing is know your dharma, which is do what is ought to be done. Don't get emotional about what he has said or what she has said within the organization, outside the organization. So know your dharma, know what is to be done. And third, drop everything and do the karma, right? Just go and get the job done. These three things for the CS practitioner. But since it's a stressful job, there are three more things that I say. This I learned from someone. One is you need to have a lot of patience in this job, right? You can't get impatient. So you need to be patient. Number two, you need to be extremely tolerant, right? Because people will come back and say, karte kya ho yaar? What do? You don't code, you don't do support, you don't do finance. So you need to be tolerant. And the most important part, and which is the larger part, is you need to learn to ignore. So suno and then just let go, both internally and with your clients.
कहाँ करते क्या होगा जवाब तो मैं यही देती हूँ, मैं सूत्रधार हूँ इस कहानी की सूत्रधार.
Yes, I'm the Nick Fury.
And the Nick Fury is amazing. And Central Intelligence Unit, I think I'm going to remember those. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Ayan.
so much.
I think we all have really gained a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do I do? Q&A. Oh, yes, sorry. Oh, yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Check. Thanks a lot, Ayan. It was a great session, and I'm sure all of us learned a lot. I've been in this profession for I'm Naveen. I'm from Oracle, probably your largest competitor, but I love sitting next to you. So don't judge me by the company I work for. So thanks a lot for all those insights. And my question is basically, I'll dive into it directly in the interest of time. I have been working across, continents, the US market, the Middle East. Now ANZ is my, domain in Oracle. I wanted to understand from you, you've been working like global delivery lead as well with PeopleStrong. And what's your take when it comes to challenges in Indian market and dealing with Indian customers in particular? Because now I myself have started getting a mixed bag of customers within Oracle. So what's your take when it comes to Indian market, Indian challenges and Indian customers in customer success? So yeah, thank you.
Sure, thank you. So, we've matured a lot. And we've seen that journey. When I say we, it's India. But there is still this tug of war between customization and configuration, right? You will always come across that. So that's why I said you need to focus on the solution and not on the feature. You would never ever be able to win the war there. The second thing is also, I think, pricing. You will feel that you're not paid well enough. When I say not paid well enough is the product. I think, so I think that is the second part. So the pricing needs to be looked really well, and how are you structuring your offering and how are you managing the pricing there. That's the second part. Third part, from a project management standpoint, I think you need to govern your projects really well in India, right? You might have budgeted for 6 months of implementation, but that can go for years. So these are the three things I would, say, and you will have all possible challenges that they will not pay, they will should not gone live, and all of that. That can happen. But I think we've come a long way. Honestly, now when we meet customer, when we do projects, it is much better than 2010. Much better than in the last 6-7 years. Done really well.
Hi, Ayan. I'm Mansij. I'm sure you know me.
Yes.
So I wanted to quickly point out that, so Ayan, and we know each other for almost like 3 years now, and he's one of the most mathematically oriented and also process-oriented person. So I want to go to ask a question that's very, very strategic and very, very pertinent to the entire group. I remember when we were discussing about the health for a particular customer, you came up with this absolutely beautiful story that, okay, and we're talking about the module where, PeopleStrong does the assessment for candidates. So the initial thought is that, if let's say 20 assessments are happening over a week, then that customer is doing great. But Ayan came back and stepped and said, that's not how you should look at it. You should look at the number of assessments done at the basis of the total number of vacant positions. That tells you if every position is getting enough assessments or not. So for example, a customer has, say, 10 positions vacant, and somebody has done 20 assessments. That's 2:1, right? Somebody has got 10 assessments, 10 positions, but they have done 50. So that's 5:1. So the 51 has definitely used your product much more than somebody who has used 20. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant insight. So I would like you to just spend maybe just a couple of minutes in explaining to the audience about this nitty-gritty part of the outcomes of your product, and how do you want the Nick Furies and Mother Teresa's and Spider-Mans, whosoever they are, how should you look at this outcomes of a product, because that's extremely important for any CS person to know.
Sure. So I think it is like how would I put it? You have to kind of do a backward calculation. I think you need to spend time with your client and understand what is the objective that they're trying to manage. what we had realized is, we were trying to solve, a particular problem in a very specific way. But the context was always missing. That context comes from your client and the problem that you're trying to solve for that client. Obsession over adoption or usage doesn't make sense if you've not solved the problem of the client. And, defining those parameters together with the client makes more sense, because the next governance that you do or the next renewal that you are getting into, these are the same numbers and data sets that you're going to show back to your client. So I think the context is very, very important. And the more time you spend with your client in defining the context, I think it becomes more clear and you're able to drive your CS organization accordingly.
Hi, Ayan. This is
Hi.
Deep from LinkedIn.
Hi, Deep.
Hi. I just want one question, and I think this is on the behalf of everybody, and I was also particularly curious. There are certain matrices which are defined to measure the KPIs of customer success professionals, right? It could be churn rate, it could be multiples are there. What is your opinion? What is going to be the future? How do you think, what are those 2 or 3 matrices which are going to play important role to define the KPIs for a customer success professional?
So fundamentally, there will be 2 things only. I mean, no matter how much you talk about ARR, NRR, churn, ye chalta rahega. These matrices are there. I mean, you can always have that. I think what we realized, and again, the context of last 1.5 year, how the SaaS world is evolving. One thing is very, very certain that financials are going to be a part of CS, KPI, right? Profitability, your top line, these are very, very important. CS people don't look at financials that closely, but it is going to be very, very important. That's one part. The other part is definitely, your CSAT or NPS, because that also gives you a view of how your customer is working. But financials are going to be an extremely important part of customer success profile going forward, because everybody in the organization, specifically in a SaaS setup, are looking towards numbers only, right? No matter how well you do, how good your product is, how good your product knowledge is, how good your launches are, if you're not profitable and if you're not generating revenue, you're not going to get that attention for sure.
Thank you so much.
No running away.
Any other questions?
Hi, Ayan. Thank you so much for sharing great insights with everyone. And hi, everyone. Ash this side. I am a part of the customer success team at MongoDB. My friend here from Oracle would know. So, okay. So my question is actually coming from an analogy of a family setup. In a family, when there are 3 kids, right? We often notice that the middle kid is somebody who gets left out. So in terms of the book of business, when we look at, and you were talking about numbers and commercials, right? When we look at customers, we often notice that for customers which are in the lower ARR segment, for them, it is, of course, we can plan automation and digitization, things like that. For customers which are high spenders, we kind of focus a lot on, all resources. How do we focus on this middle segment the best? Because it's a make or break segment for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And your middle segment is the one that gives you the numbers, right? The count comes from the middle segment.
They are the next spenders.
They are the ones, right? So it is very important to have, different strategy for each of your segment, right? We also face the same challenge. The mid segment, knowingly or unknowingly, gets ignored a little bit. But we've also realized in the last 6-8 months, we've put a structure in place. Understanding what the middle segment wants more. They don't want more conversation. The middle segment wants the problem to be solved faster, right? Because they are operating in that area. So define your CS matrices or your organization structure in a way that you are able to cater to their specific needs. The enterprise segment probably wants to sit down, discuss a bigger strategy, for which you might have to put a dedicated strategy. But your mid segment probably is looking for just a faster support. So maybe, instead of 8 hours SLA, reduce it to 4 hours SLA, and that might solve your problem. So I think that's what I can think of as of now.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, all right. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we extended. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. A little bit here and there.
That's okay.
Thanks, Ayan. Thanks, Mausmi.